morning. Are we on? Good to see everybody out on this very foggy day. If you've driven very far, you cannot see me. Anyway, today we're going to have a group of people speak, and Courtney Burns is going to start us off, and then the rest of you introduce yourselves. What part you play in the U.S. Colored Troops Monument Committee, and look forward to hearing all of the things that y'all have been working on. Carter?
Thanks, Debbie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Courtney Burns. I'm the Vice Chairman of the U.S. Colored Troops Monument Committee. Robert Cornell is the Chairman of the committee, but he has to be out of town today. So the way that we've been tackling this project is to divide the committee up into subcommittees. So the subcommittees that we have are the History and Research Subcommittee, which is chaired by Deborah Fontaine. The Monument Design Subcommittee is chaired by Lance Harris. The Site Selection Subcommittee, which is chaired by Devin Heath. We have a Finance and Fundraising Subcommittee, which is chaired by our Mayor, Dan Gibson. And we have a Marketing and PR Subcommittee, which is chaired by Roscoe. So we have a few of our subcommittee chairs here today that are going to give you an update on the work that everybody has been doing and the progress so far on the monument. So I'm going to turn it over now to Devin Heath, who's the chair of the Site Subcommittee, to talk about the progress that they've made.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, again, just a kind of basis for why this is so important, why we are so passionate as a city to have the U.S. Colored Troops Monument here. There were over 3,000 members of the U.S. Colored Troops that served here in Natchez, and it was such a important aspect of the Civil War and of Natchez that we as a destination felt it was so important to honor these men and serve them. So the Site Selection Subcommittee, it's really a misnomer. We're not going to select the final site. We're going to take all the recommendations from the community, and we're going to evaluate them and see the viability of each of the sites to consider for placing this monument there. So I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit through the process. There were several members of the committee, and we had preliminary discussions discussing about what our committees would be doing, as well as the site considerations. What are the specific sites and criteria that we wanted to consider for each site? We requested recommendations from the committee members for this potential sites to actually post. Then we had further discussions with the members of the committee, the full committee, about the site considerations, including the specific sites and criteria. We compiled a list of potential sites to consider. Initially, there were 13 sites that were considered initially. The Site Selection Subcommittee discussed those sites and narrowed it down based on the historical significance as well as access, and this is important, access to residents and visitors. We want to make sure that this is a site that can be appreciated and celebrated among our visitors as well as our residents. Our team created a site selection criteria evaluation. So there's actually a format that we follow when evaluating each site. And then from there, the Site Selection Subcommittee toured each site. And actually, I had the wrong one. I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong one. My apologies. We evaluated the feedback and that was received and assessed the site. So we've done a community forum where we talk with the community. We're going to continue to do that, such as today. Roscoe is going to share with you some of the additional outreach that we're doing as a full committee to get more feedback. And we're going to continue to assess the feedback. We want to hear input. We want to hear recommendations as to other potential sites or your feedback with regards to current sites that are being considered. And then we're going to evaluate that and make further evaluations from the first community forum. There are an additional 5 sites that were recommended. And we're gonna go out and we're gonna evaluate those. We're going to assess them, and we're gonna use that same criteria sheet that we used in the very beginning. So, we're gonna work on that process very, very quickly. I wanna talk a little bit about the sites now. And this is in no particular order, so don't take, 1, 2, 3, 4 as first choice or anything, because there's no choices, no preferences at this point. But, we're gonna talk about the criteria first. So, we talked about, we created a site selection criteria sheet where we went out and actually determined a set of parameters that we wanted to make sure that we were able to use consistently across all sites. And so we wanted to know what was the significance of this potential site with regards to the U.S. colored troops and the African American heritage. Again, as I talked about a minute ago, the accessibility for residents and visitors to be able to access the site. What's the proximity to future development? Site visibility and the security of the site. Site encroachment of existing facilities. Erosion potential or flooding opportunities. Road access, capacity, and safety. Proximity of utilities. Potential environmental hazards. And last, flexibility to accommodate various types of monuments. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into one particular type of monument. That's our desire, is to give us that flexibility, because while Lance and I and our committees are going to work very closely together, we don't want to make it difficult on the design and possibly get a design that wouldn't be our first choice if we're pigeonholing ourselves into a site that is only going to accommodate a certain type of monument. So these are the sites toured. Again, don't take this in any hierarchy whatsoever. This is just random. The Natchez Memorial Park, Forks of the Road, Cemetery Road, MLK and Gayosa Streets, Zion Chapel AME Church, MLK and Beulah Streets, behind Payout Barbecue, and that's the land right next to Bonaventura, and Natchez Visitor Reception Center. So those are the sites that were initially toured for consideration. Again, after our community forum, we got an additional 5 sites that we're considering right now, and we'll be doing a similar the same assessment for those sites. What questions do you have for the site selection before I hand it over?
What were the other sides?
What were the other sites? What were the other 5? There was Fort Rosalie. There was the plot of land right next to it, and then there is the Natchez Historical Park. Colin, Robert,
Heritage Triangle area.
the Heritage Triangle area, and the plot of land near the overpass across from Walgreens.
I remember that.
Yeah. So those were among the sites. And again, we're still considering others. So if there's other suggestions, other recommendations, please feel free to share that. There's forms that we'll be sharing here shortly with everyone, so that you'll be able to provide feedback as well. My email's out there as well. You'll be able to see that. Feel free to shoot me an email if an idea comes to you next week. Feel free to shoot that, because we want the input. We want to hear the rationales and the thought. I will say, I won't go into the details of it, but I will say there was a thought that was shared during, several thoughts, but one in particular that was shared during the recent community forums that was very different than the way in which kind of our committee had really thought before. And several of us said afterwards, wow, you know what, that was really powerful, that was really important to hear. So I'm glad that we heard that, and now we're considering things in a different light because we heard a considerable amount of that similar feedback. So please share that feedback. That's important to us. Please let us know what your thoughts are and how, where a great location might be, or considerations either for or maybe not in favor of certain sites, certain considerations. Yeah.
And I apologize, because I'm sure you said it in the criteria, and I just don't have the short-term memory. Are you looking at only at sites that are already in the public domain, or are you looking at privately owned sites as well?
Great question. We felt it important, and I'll go back to that. We felt it important to consider all sites.
Okay.
We felt it important. We did not want to. We didn't want to isolate and potentially shun certain sites that could potentially be worked out. So I will share with you that one of the sites that was initially considered is a private site and has since been taken off the list because the owners of that site have told us no, that they are not interested in any development, not just with regard to the monument, but any development at this site. So we've now taken that off the list, but we didn't want to limit ourselves to certain sites. So we are considering all sites, whether it's city-owned, public-owned, private-owned, what have you. We wanted to consider everything. And then as we kind of narrow that list down and we find the best sites that we think would work, then we'll start having conversations with those property owners or representatives to make sure that that's something that they would consider.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before I hand you off? All right. Well, thank you guys very much. I'm going to hand it over to our distinguished Design Committee Sub-Chair, Ms. Lambert.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Well, again, I'm Lance Harris. I'm the chairman of the Monument Design Subcommittee. My co-chair on this endeavor is Ms. Devin. Many of you know. She's not with us today. She's going to be coming up tomorrow. But you should see her at our next community-wide meetings. So the committee has been very busy over the last several months. As y'all know, this project is relatively youthful in its endeavor, but we're looking to make some good progress, particularly next year in 2022. But one of the main things that we've done as a committee at large is create a mission statement, and that mission is to conduct an open, informed, and transparent process for presenting the best monument design for the Natchez U.S. Colored Troops Monument to the larger community that reflects the needs and desires of the community at large and the descendants of those veterans. One of the things that we take very seriously in this committee is making sure that the community and again those descendants of these soldiers have the design that they want that represents their needs and their desires, and we find that to be a very important process and part of our process. So again, my co-chair is David Cozy, and our subcommittee members are Carter Burns, Liz D'Antone, who's not with us today, most of the people are not Mary Jane today, Jarita Fraser King, Robert Morgan, Catherine Murray, Kim Sessoms, and Bob Willis. So here you see a little bit of background information, and Devin touched on a lot of this information earlier, and Deborah Fontaine, who's again not with us today, she came up with all this. It's the who, what, when, where, and why. And I'll let you take a moment to read over it. But we find that this particular endeavor that we're engaging upon is very important to our community. We think that it'll be an asset to the city, and it's past due, I think. So we're looking forward to the future with getting this monument up and running, getting the very best monument that honors the Natchez U.S. Colored Troops. So as far as our process is concerned with the monument design, of course we've been meeting and having meetings since May of this year. We've assembled several times, which one of the recent culminations of all these meetings was our first public meeting, which occurred on November 2021, to discuss the project. Prior to this public meeting, I engaged with our subcommittee members to compile information and thoughts and examples of other monuments and sites of remembrance within the country that have a similar theme or similar feel, so that we can have a starting place for engaging with the community to find out what the community at large would like. And I'm going to go over some of that information here in just a moment. So let's start with the examples from other locations that our committee members pulled together. So this is the Contraband and Freedmen Cemetery in Alexandria, Virginia. Part of the transatlantic slave trade in New York. The contraband camp in Corinth, Mississippi. Fort Myers, Florida. Lincoln College, Missouri. National Colored Troops Monument. Portsmouth African Burial Ground. South Carolina African American History Memorial. Texas African American History Memorial. Vicksburg National Military Park. 29th Colored Regiment. African American Civil War Memorial. The Shaw Monument in Boston Commons. So again, all of our subcommittee members looked at these examples and also took time to compile their thoughts and their feelings and things that they thought would be important to include as we look to work with an outside team to design this monument. I'm not going to go through a lot of particulars from our individual subcommittee members I put ideas forward, but I will get to kind of our consensus thoughts here in just 1 second. As you can see, it's a lot of information. One of the things in our process, though, you know, as you look through the previous examples, you saw a lot of figurative work. In some of those other monuments, you saw a lot of narrative work. One of the things in our discussions as a subcommittee was the idea, and we'll talk about this at length, to think beyond just traditional ways of presenting information and presenting this monument, and looking at other ideas, whether it's kind of textural, tactile means to create certain theories and evoke certain emotions, using things such as sound, water. We look at this as kind of all things are on the table. You know, we're not taking anything off the table. We want the community to be engaged and come out with their ideas as well too. Use of light is another example. Walkways. A couple of our subcommittee members are sculptors as well too. One of which is Mr. Godfrey. He's actually going through a base of maquettes and come up with some very detailed ideas of his own. With all this said, there seems to be a common theme that stretched through most of the subcommittee members. Those common themes were, number one, represent each Natchez U.S. Colored Troops regiment and the Navy. Whatever this design has a listing of the 3,000 plus individuals that serve in this capacity. There was a desire to use life-size or upper life-size statues of soldiers and seamen. Utilize the United States flag in the design. Tell the story, make it a narrative type monument. Be interactive, which is a variety of different ways we've talked about doing that. One of the ones that's not on here that really needs to be though is that you know, we want this to be a place of remembrance, a place of importance, and a place you know, that has meaning to it. That's not just something that you walk up to and you look at and oh great, and you walk away. We want to evoke feelings and emotions so you can make sure that when you walk away with it, you have a deeper appreciation of our ancestors who went before us and fought for their freedom. So with all that being said, we came together, we pulled out some of these themes and some of these ideas, and we created a questionnaire. It's right here on this table right here. I ask that all of you please take this, fill it out, submit it to us, because we need the thoughts and desires of the community at large to inform what we're going to do in our next phase. And this is really one of the most important aspects of what we've done so far. Please, please, please do this. Encourage others to do it as well, to submit those ideas and thoughts to us so that we can get the very best product at the end of the day. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what's next for the Monument Design Committee? Well, we've created a small subcommittee so far that's going to be a subcommittee of the subcommittee, right? It's going to be led up by Ms. Liz Antone. Liz has some very good previous experience in dealing with public monuments and design, and being able to take it from idea to the next phase, which is a concrete design or designs that you can look at that can be submitted to not just the community at large, but the public at large as well too, so that we can make sure that everybody's on the same page with the monument design that we want to put forward for making this a reality here in Natchez. So with that being said, I'm going to open up for any questions that anybody might have. Yes, ma'am.
So something that just popped in my head this morning, Robert, when you mentioned Rebels Plaza, the triangle area, has been suggested for consideration. And I hadn't heard that before, and that just suddenly made me think, isn't there already a recommendation in the plan for a Howard Rebels statue to be in that plaza? And because he was so involved in the U.S. color troops, is there, or has the committee considered combining these somehow in one design?
I don't think Howard Rebels has been mentioned directly, but there has been talk of utilizing a wide variety of parts of the story that relate to the United States color troops in the total design. So a case in point, and Roscoe might have a little bit better or more detailed information about this, but the Natchez U.S. color troops came together and presented a considerable amount of funding for the monument that's in D.C. Maybe you can remind me of the name of that monument. I think it was
The Lincoln, I thought it was a Lincoln.
or the Emancipation.
It's an emancipation monument.
It's the
It was dedicated to Lincoln, as I recall,
Yes, it's
right?
Lincoln and the Union thing.
Yeah, so, here our local contingent, Natchez U.S. color troops, provide the biggest funding for that design, that monument that's in Washington, D.C. And we feel that that might be an important part of the story to consider as part of the overall design. I don't think that's off the table to include other parts of the story as well too. We're just not quite at that point in the future. I think what's going to end up happening though at the end of the day is I suspect we're probably going to put out a request for qualifications at some point in the near future, and we'll have, I'm hoping, submittals from across the nation, whittle it down, and then whenever we get a firm or group on board that we've hired, that they will actually be able to take us and lead us through this process even one step further, to take all these various different parts into consideration. Of course, it'll also tie into the site selection as well too. The ability to have that information to be able to create the bigger monument design that we'll be looking at for designs as it were. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Well, if not, I will say please visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/group/Natchez USCT Monument Committee. And I think Roscoe's going to give you a little information about our website as well too.
Have you put any ideas as to how big the budget needs to be?
Great question, the budget. At our public forum that we had on November 10th, that was one of the two questions related to monument design as well too. Devin got to field most of the questions. I only fielded a couple, but the money aspect was one of them. So when we started this process in particular with the monument design, I was looking at it from a similar point of view. How much money are we going to have to make this happen? Because that's going to determine this back together. Our chairman, Robert Carnell, comes at it from a different point of view. And his idea is like, no, we don't want to put any limitations on the design by any money aspect. We simply want the very best. So the short answer is no. We don't have any idea what the financial obligation is going to be to create this particular monument. I think at some point in the near future, we're going to hope that within the next, in 2022, we have a group on board that we can engage with, and hopefully have a contract with, to lead us through the next process and create that design, which that'll cost, have a certain amount of money attached to it, but then the overall project, I think they'll probably be taking that work from that group and then utilizing that to fundraise to get the money. And it will probably be that the professionals that will kind of set the tone for the budget moving forward. I do think that we do have some money that's already in the bank that thanks to our mayor and Ms. Bond over here as well too, so thank you for that.
Drop it.
Drop it.
We'll remember that.
For when you do.
Not for the project.
For those of you that do feel so inclined, of course, you can speak to Robert Burnell or our mayor, Dan Gibson. They're co-chairs for the fundraising committee, and I'm sure you as well. And yes, I didn't realize that you were on that. So everybody, watch checkbooks, and you can give them straight to.
But checks have to be made out to the Community Alliance with USD.
Made out to Community Alliance with the memo Natchez U.S. Monument one. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So what kind of surveys have y'all done to like get, feedback from the public regarding, their ideas?
Sure. So on November 10th, we had a public forum meeting, which Devin, myself, Roscoe, and also Devin, Mayor, and Mr. Burnell participated. This right in front of you is the only survey that we've done today so far. I suspect, again, this is kind of a hope, we're not at this point just yet, we haven't finalized this part of the process. But I'm hopeful that if we do get an outside team of professionals involved in this, they'll also be conducting similar type surveys and public forum meetings as well too, is what I anticipate. Just to gather more information to make sure that we're getting the absolute best monument that the community and these descendants feel good about. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Roscoe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As business people, I'm sure you all have heard that you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you won't make a sale. And so that's the view that we have when it comes to promoting this particular product. Very important, very significant, and it's historic. But if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to support it. And so that's where my role comes in. As a marketing and PR guy, I get the opportunity to promote all the news, all the good stuff. And we're using all types of platforms to get the word out so that people can know what we're doing. Of course, we're using the traditional media platform, the local newspapers, the papers here in Natchez, the Concordia Sentinel across the river, the Fayette Chronicle, and also state publications out of Jackson. And we also have various people, bloggers and what have you, who are picking up the different stories. So in addition, and we're also using radio. Thank you. We've appeared on a couple of radio programs to talk about the project. In addition to traditional news media, we're also using various social media platforms. And Facebook, of course, is our biggest. In addition to Facebook, we're using Twitter. We're using LinkedIn. We're using Tumblr. And everything that we post, I'm also sharing it on Pinterest. Anybody here on Pinterest? Okay. Oh, yes.
Well, we are, so.
All right, very good. So we're sharing it on all of the different platforms. And the easiest way to find it on these social media platforms is to use the hashtag. If you don't know the website, the URL, you can just we're using two hashtags. We're using hashtag Natchez U.S, hashtag Natchez Colored Troops. So if you're wandering around on Twitter and you're trying to figure out, okay, where did Roscoe say we're located? Just use that hashtag and it'll take you straight to the site. If you're on LinkedIn, same thing. We're using the same hashtags on all the different platforms. And it's a beautiful thing. I was on Facebook the other day and I just clicked on some of the hashtags, and to see all of the stuff that we've done so far is all categorized, it's all right there in one area. It all pops up right there. If you're trying to remember something we posted on Facebook, you don't know the date, and you're trying to look, use that hashtag and it'll pop up. You'll see everything that we've done so far on Facebook. And so we're doing that, to promote everything. Now, having a Facebook page is important. A number of people, I was looking at some of the names just last night, and we have people all, from New York, people from Maryland, people from all over the country, California. A lot of people are starting to follow us. We have people who are just interested in Civil War history. We have professors, we have students from all over who have taken an interest in this project. And of course, we have the news media, and we do want the news media to be involved with what we're doing. And the Facebook page, so if you're on Facebook and you're not following us, I invite you to follow us. Look us up on Facebook and join the group. And we're posting regular updates, we're posting photos, all kinds of things. And I was looking at Land's mission statement, and I would love to share that on Facebook. That says a lot in that one paragraph. It really says a lot. And that's something that I would like to post, on Facebook and share. Now, here's the other thing I'm asking you to do. Don't just be a passive follower, okay? If you follow us, share it with some of your friends. Share it with some of your family. Invite them to come along, okay? If you see something that's of interest to people that you know that I don't know, feel free to share it. Because we can reach more people if more people will share, okay? So we don't want to be stingy, we don't want to keep all this good stuff ourselves. So feel free, and it doesn't matter what platform. If you're on LinkedIn, do the same thing. Now, in addition to these platforms, we're also using email. Whenever we have a press release, news items, we'll send it out to the news feed, of course, but we also use the email contacts. And I had some stuff to go out this week, and I have something else going out today. And I ask the same thing when it comes to email. So if you receive an email from us with some news, a major announcement about the project, you have a list of people that I don't know. I'm asking you to share it with your contacts, okay? So again, if all of us will continue to share, we'll reach more people, and I think we can have a greater impact. Why do we want to reach all of these people? Well, let me give you two good reasons. Number one, they've already touched on, we want feedback. We want to know what you think about the project. We want your input about all aspects of this project, okay? We want that. What's the second thing? We want your financial support. Yes, we want your money. Next week, we are hoping that the website will go live, Natchez-U.S. And we will be, sending out an announcement about it by email and on social media. And we also hope to have an announcement for the fundraising campaign. But we want people to know about it so that they can support it. And so you can help us, whether it's, we're talking to people in your church, business organization, in your community, maybe you have ties with some schools. We invite you to share this. Share it with them, okay? And that's what I have. Do we have any questions or comments? Let me just announce that the mayor has already made the first donation to get things going. And we have another very important person in this room who took on the challenge, and she also made a donation toward the project. This was Kathleen Bond. And so we're very grateful, and we're hoping that others will follow them. Okay? That's all I have. Thank you.
And by the way, I think I'm going to get information out when we've been doing that.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce somebody today. Catherine Parker is going to be in our office. You know that Sheila Goday is very pregnant, and she will be leaving at the end of this month for a couple months. So Catherine's going to help us out. So if you would introduce yourself to her today, she's needing to learn our community and get to know you. And Catherine is PR major. Next week, we have a really great treat, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to be here, but Natchez High Choir will be here singing, and if you've ever been here before when they come, it's just awesome, and it really gets you in the Christmas spirit. So they do a lot of a cappella. They're just very talented, and so anyway, next week, please come and get in the Christmas spirit, and that will end our December Friday forums. And we'll start back probably the second week in January. So thank you for coming today. Please either look on our Facebook page or visit natchez.org. Y'all, there's so many things going on. It's kind of daily that I have to check my calendar. So have a good weekend.